Now, this is the different kinds of databases and data intensive computing you're going to use. Previously, what we are going to use is that we are going to use database management system, right? Database management system, nothing but it is structured data. You're going to store data in the forms of tables, in the forms of rows and columns, right? So we have relations. Suppose we have customer table, we have order tables, we have product tables. The customers has made a order, the order has a product. So they are going to maintain relations between the different tables. So that kind of data is called as what data is going to call as relational data, relation tables, and they are going to use RDBMS like MySQL, Oracles. But nowadays this kind of RDBMS is now failures because we are not able to store unstructured data like the audio, video, and some kind of semi-structured data. It's not possible with the help of RDBMS. And RDBMS is very much strict in schema. Before going to store any kind of data in a relational database management system, we have to design the database. We have to design also the schema, because with the schema only first you have to make the format of your table, and then only you have to insert data into that table. So it is totally strictly followed by schema. Without the schema we cannot store the data in relational database management systems. And later on what happens, we have went for the distributed database. What is distributed database? Distributed database are the collection of data stores at different sites of computer networks. Suppose we have a database in Tenali, we have a database in Guntur, we have database in Delhi, we have database in Kolkata, we have database in Vijayawada, we have database in Hyderabad. So we have database in different sites, and all database how we are being connected, we are connecting through the networks. So it means that all database are going to communicate through networks in different sites, and that is going to call as what? Distributed database. So distributed database means what? Where data has been distributed into different locations. Each site might expose degree of autonomy, providing services for the execution of local application, but also participating in the execution of the global application. So this is going to be provide a kind of services, so you can access your services from any place, from anywhere, just like ATM machine. Suppose I want to take money from anywhere, from any place, I can access that services because we have distributed database. I can access money from the Tenali. I go to Tenali ATMs, I can get the money, and I can go to any place, I can get the money. It means ATMs are going to provide you 24/7 services from any place, from any location. Why? Because of the distributed database applications. Now here this database, basically if you see the RDBMS, they are forced to what property? ACID properties. They have to go into format properties. They will have the kind of ACID properties you to maintain, right? This will maintain atomicity, then you say have consistency, then we have durability, right? Then we have, so they are very much what enforced what kind of properties, that ACID properties are very much strictly followed in the case of the relational database management system, which can follow the atomicity property, consistency property, derivative properties, association properties. Okay, these all properties has to be formed strictly where in the case of the relational database management system like MySQL and Oracles. Limited abilities for scaling when compared to grid and data clouds. Of course, they have scaling is very much limited because in relational database management system we are not at all using the horizontal scaling. We are using only the vertical scaling. This is one of the major drawback of the relational database management system, because we are using only the vertical scalability. It means, what is vertical scalability and horizontal scalability? Let me ask question to you. See, vertical scalability means what? Suppose I want to construct a number of building. I want to construct a building, but I don't have much space. What I'll do, I'll construct one by one. First floor, second floor, third floor, fourth floor, fifth floor. I can go up to 25th floor. This is going to call as what is scalability? Vertical scalability. It means on top of the every floor, I am constructing one houses. That is called what is going to call as vertical scalability. What is horizontal scalability? I have a space. What I'll do, I'll construct one house. Next, I'm going to construct one house. Next, I'm going to construct one more house. Next, I'm going to construct one more house. It means I can construct 24 houses across the space. That is going to cause what scalability is? Horizontal scalability. So RDBMS is not allowed you to perform the horizontal scalability. We have to perform what the scalability? We have to perform only the vertical scalability, and which is not at all good for huge amount of data. This is the restriction of the RDBMS. Now, technology for data intensive computing. So what are different types of technologies we are going to use for data intensive computing? That will going to concern in two important aspects. The first one is called a storage platform, second is called programming platform. It means we are going to concern about how to store the huge data which is we are getting from different sources. The data may be in the form of structure, unstructured, and semi-structured. That's number one concern. Second concern is that how to process this bulk amount of data. It means how we are going to process this huge amount of data. So these are two important concerns you're going to deal with what in data intensive application. Suppose you're taking an application like Facebook and Google application, how they are going to store huge amount of data, what type of technology they are going to employ, they are going to deploy what kind of technology to store the huge amount of data which they are getting from different sources. Second is that how they are processing this huge amount of data. Okay, so these are two important concerns we are going to discuss on the data intensive computing technologies. Now, you see here factors that affect traditional DBMS. Now, we ask question that why people are not at all using traditional database. You see Facebook, the Facebook is not at all using traditional database. Previously, they use Oracles, right? But nowadays, they are totally moved from Oracle to Hadoop. They are using different Hadoop environments. What is the why they are not at all interested so much? See, I'm not telling that this traditional database is totally obsolete from the market or totally has gone from the market, not at all. But the popularity of traditional database is getting decreased. Okay, because it has some limitation. What the first limitation is that it can store only structured data. This is first limitation. What the second limitation is that it can allow only vertical scalability. Okay, what the third restriction is that it can have only schema oriented data. It means you must design the schema before going to store any kind of data. This is one third restrictions we have. Fourth is what it is enforce what kind of property it enforce ACID properties. So, but our today question is what today we are not living at the old age. We are in the 21st century. We are in the era of information avalanche. We are in the era of information explosion. Everywhere you are getting data. In every second you are generating data. Everywhere you can find data because of IoT, Internet of Things, because of social media, because of different types of e-commerce website. So every aspect you are going to get data. So the biggest challenge is that because of the growth of the big data, because of the growth of the data in the forms of petabytes, exabytes, the popularity of traditional database is getting degraded. Because that traditional database is failed to store unstructured data. It fails to store semi-structured data. So, but nowadays you want to process the all amount of data which is coming in three different formats. Okay, in three different forms you're getting data. It may be structured, semi-structured, unstructured data. So, my biggest question is that is traditional database is going to manage these three categories of data which you are getting in today market, in today world? Not possible. Traditional database is only applicable for structured data, and because of the popularity of big data, the traditional DBMS popularity has coming down by down every time. It has declining the rate because most of the companies, they are least bothered about traditional database. They are going to the different technology. They're using Hadoop technology. They're using NoSQL database. They're using Hive. They're using Pig. They're using different types of processing techniques. They're using Spark. So they are moving into different era. So because of that, the traditional database is not at all used by many reputed companies. They're not using traditional database. The growing of popularity of big data. One reason is what because of big data, the popularity of traditional database has been declined. Second is growing importance of data analytics in the business chain. Of course, see, once you get the huge amount of data, you have to analyze the data, and that will help the business to grow. So if I can analyze the data, I can able to improve my business further. I can able to come out with a very good idea, and I can attract my customers. Okay. So because of data analytics, we need to give importance of the big data. Presence of data in several forms, not only structures. So nowadays data are present in different forms. As I told just now, data are not present in structured format. Previously, olden days, we are getting data only in the forms of structured format, but nowadays we are able to obtain data in the various forms like structured form, unstructured form, and semi-structured formats. New approaches, technologies for computing. Nowadays we are getting a lot of new technologies, right? For data analytics, we have different technologies are being employed, and for processing a huge amount of data using Hadoop, using the Spark. Spark technology has came into market. So because of new technology, we are moving into new era, and traditional database is slowly the popularity is somewhat getting down, but it's not obsolete from the market. Now, high performance distributed file systems and storage cloud. So if you are going to see, distributed file system constitute the primary support for data management. Already I told you that nowadays what if people are using that, you are going to use distributed file system because we are taking the large files, and large files, what are you doing? We are dividing into small chunks, and a small parts you are giving to different nodes to process that file. So it means that you are going to use the parallel processing techniques. Okay, so you are basically using what kind of system? You are using distributed file system approach. Okay, suppose this is my big file. What I'm doing, I'm just splitting down into small pieces, and each pieces I'm distributing into one node, one second node, third node, and fourth node, and so on. And these all nodes are going to process this data into in various formats into parallel processing, and they're going to get the outcome. So we are in the age of distributed file systems, and also going to use the cloud services, right? Because already told, because of growing of the big data, the cloud computing services are much available right now. So if even though we are getting the huge amount of data, the cloud computing services like Google, like Amazon Web Services, they are going to provide you services like simple storage services, which is called as S3 service, simple storage services, or elastic blockage storage services, or you can call it elastic file system services. So by using these services, you can able to access the huge amount of data. You can able to retrieve information from that. You can able to process information from them using this kind of services. Okay, so because of this cloud computing services, the performance of the systems to become very high. The data intensive applications are being highly used everywhere, and they are least bother about the huge amount of data. As data comes, the cloud computing services will going to provide the data based on the demand. If data is high, in that way they are going to provide you services based on your demand of the companies, how many data you are receiving, where you're going to store, and how to process them. So these all kind of cloud computing services are being provided by the cloud computing providers. So here the main thing is that this distributed file system is nothing but they use a large number of nodes. It's already told that once your file is distributed, then each file you are going to give, or each partitions are going to give into the one nodes. So you're going to maintain the cluster of nodes. The cluster of nodes are going to maintain here. What in the case of the high performance computing? So it means we are going to work in a cluster manners, right? Suppose I cannot do the works alone. So what I'll do, I will take the big task, I divide them into small tasks, and I allocate each task to the each peoples, and they will do the works in parallel processing. So I am going to use the large number of nodes, which is called scalability. I'm going to use a scalable algorithm, and I'm going to use what kind of approach? I'm going to use the horizontal approach here. So here a scaling out approach can be used to have a high performance computations. So to perform your applications at very high rapid speed, very rapid processing, we use the horizontal scalability and use the large number of nodes. So we can add a nodes depends upon the requirements, or you can sync the node depends on the requirements. Now here this is Pepper distributed file system and storage clouds we are going to use. These are distributed file systems we have. One is called Lustre file system, then IBM General Parallel File System, GPFS, which is called as Google File System, is very much famous. After Google File System only this Hadoop distributed file system came into effect, because the ancestor of the HDFS is nothing but it's a Google File System. Then we have Sectors. Then we have Amazon Simple Storage Services. This is very famous services which are provided by the Amazon Web Services to store the huge amount of data. So these are some of the distributed file system and store cloud services are given here. Like you have Sector, Amazon Simple Storage Services, Google File Systems, we have IBM General Parallel File Systems, and we have the clusters. Now coming to the general reference architectures. See, when we are talking about the general reference architectures, let me give you some clear views about that. See, general reference architecture is nothing but it is basically consists of two important things. One is called as masters and slave relationship. This is very important fact. You are going to use what? You are going to use the master slave relationship, okay, for general reference architectures. Now if you see the master slave reference architecture means what? We have a master node which is called as, one is going to call as what node? Master node, and second is going to call as what node? As slave node. Suppose the slave node I am going to call as data node 1 is called as slave node. This is going to call as data node 2 is going to call as the slave node 2, okay, and this is going to call as data node 3 is going to call as the slave node 3. So we have a master node, and then it's going to call as what? The slave node. So who can control the slave? The master is the one who can going to control the slave, okay. So master is going to control the slave. Now to store the data, suppose if you want to store the data, then you are going to have two important nodes can be used to store the data. So one I can call as, suppose I am going to call as name node. So name node is called as the master node, okay, it's going to call as the master node, and second is going to call as what node? Is going to call as the data node. What node is going to call as the data node, okay, data nodes. Now this name node is basically used, if you see about this name node is nothing but it is a master node who can control the data node, who can control the this different data nodes. Now this name node is going to maintain some kind of data which is called as metadata. What data is? It is being called as metadata. It means data about the data. It means it has information about each and every data nodes. Okay, in each data nodes, how many blocks are available and how many files are stored in this node. In this data node, how many blocks are available and how many files are stored in this block. In this block, how many data are, how many blocks are available and how many files are being stored. So this information where you can find, we can find where in the name nodes. The name nodes will have information about the various data nodes informations, and how they are going to have information, what? In the form of metadata. So name node is going to maintain what? Name node is going to maintain the metadata information, which is nothing but the master node. So who is master node here? The name node is going to call as the master node, and what kind of information it's going to maintain? Is going to maintain the metadata information. Now here, which is a slave node? Now the slave node nothing but is going to call what node? It is going to call as the data node. This data node is going to call as the slave node, because based on the request, okay, whatever the services, whatever the request given by the master, data node has to process. Okay, the masters will the one who can tell what kind of processing data node has to be do. Okay, so master node is having the control over this data nodes. Okay, now here, because of this, we have most important thing is that fault tolerance and high availability will going to be achieved. Now you may ask question, how are we going to achieve the high availability and the fault tolerance? One important thing is that, suppose we have a data is there here, x1 is data is available here. Let me take an example. Now this x1 is data available in which node? It is available on node data node 1. Okay, now what happens if this data node 1 is getting crashes? If this data node 1 is getting failure, if it's failed, what will happen? Definitely you're going to lose all this content. This whole data will be going to be lost. So do you want to lose your data? Because data is very crucial. It may be critical data, it may be sensitive data, and if you lose this data, means your companies may go down, your companies may not get this data again. So we have to maintain reliability on this data, we have to maintain security on this data. Then how we can achieve this data security and data reliability? What we can do is that we can replicate the same data 3 times, by default 3 times. I'm talking about default 3 times. 3 times is what? The same x1 I can duplicate, I can keep into this data node 1, 2. So this same data I can replicate, where I can keep into data node 3. So what happens is that this x1 is what? X1 is distributed across these 3 data nodes. Okay, so across these 3 data nodes, this what happens? X1 has been distributed. Okay, so this x1 is distributed to data node 1, data node 2 and data node 3. So in such cases, how you can achieve the high readability? Suppose if data node is getting crash out, nothing to worry. We can retrieve the same data from which node? From data node 1. Or suppose if data node 2 is also getting crash out or getting failure, nothing to worry. We can what? You can access it from the data node 3. Okay. So you can also increase a number of replication. You can increase replication by 4, replication by 5, depends upon the system requirement, depends upon the about the reliability of the systems. Okay, this is going to call as what? Fault tolerance on the high available storage system. It means that we can able to access data from different data nodes, and you can able to achieve the high readability and high scalability also. What in the case of the reference? So every reference architecture, or you can say general reference architecture, general reference architectures can use a master slave relationships. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the storage. Similarly, if you want to go for the processing, right? If you want to process the data, then you have to use job tracker. Job tracker is what? Job tracker as a master. Job tracker is a what? As the master. And then what you have to use? You have to use task tracker. What you can use? You can use a task tracker as a slave. You can use task tracker as a slave. Okay. So this job tracker is a master, and here which is slave? Task tracker is a slave. Again, what relationship we have? We have master slave relationship. Okay. So based on the directions given by the job tracker, the task tracker is going to execute the data. Is going to process the data which is stored in different data nodes. And for the processing of data nodes, what happens? You can use job tracker and the task tracker. So the general reference architecture, nothing but it will what? It will have a relationship between the masters and slave. And one more thing, that this, to store and to process the data, the master node will maintain relationship with another master node. With another master node. Similarly, the slave node will maintain the relationship with the another slave node. It means, if I say like this, job tracker, what happens? It can maintain what? It can maintain relationship with name node. That is possible. And similarly, data node is what? Data nodes will maintain relationship with the task tracker. What tracker is the task tracker? They will maintain the relationship. So this kind of architectures which will going to have a proper master slave relationship is called as general reference architectures, which can provide how to store data and how to process data. It also going to provide you how to maintain high readability, how to maintain replication factors, and how to maintain security within the data. Okay. Now you're going to see the NoSQL systems, right? Now, just now we are discussing one thing is that RDBMS is somewhat getting absolute from the market. Somewhat. I'm not telling that it is completely absolute, but most of the companies now, they are not using the RDBMS because of the growing popularity of the big data. So if they are not using the RDBMS, then what kind of database they are migrating? What kind of database they are using? Which database they are going to opt? Which database they are going to choose? So right now they have a large database that came to the market, but most important things they are using right now for the big data is what called as NoSQL system. This is NoSQL, nothing but it is called as not only SQL. How you can pronounce NoSQL as not only SQLs, was originally coded in 1998. So this technology came in which year? It came in the year of 1998. NoSQL cannot be considered as relational database, so it is not at all a relational database. That's why it's saying not only SQL, so it is not a relational database management system. NoSQL is umbrella encompasses all storage and database management system different somewhere from the relational model. So this NoSQL is totally different from the relational data models in the sense the relational data models is a schema. It's schema oriented. It is store data based on the schema. Whereas NoSQL is totally opposite. It is schemaless. No need to define the schema. Without schema also we can able to store data. Whereas in a relational database management system, we can store only the structured data. But in non-SQL database management system, NoSQL database, we can able to store structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data. So it is highly support of big data. It support the big data in a large scales. One more thing is that in a SQL or in a relational database management system, we have restriction. We have to follow ACID properties. Okay, it has no restrictions. It's not going to follow this ACID properties. One more thing is that this relational database management system is what? It is a vertical scalability. It will have a vertical scalability. But NoSQL is what? NoSQL is what? It is a horizontal scalability. What is a horizontal scalability? It means that it can add more number of nodes whenever data increase. When data increase, it will add more number of nodes to process that data. So we should not worry about how much data we are getting. Just it will add automatically the nodes and is going to store a huge amount of data. So what concept is going to follow? Is going to follow the concept of a horizontal scalability, not the vertical scalabilities. Now, two main factors have determined the growth of the NoSQLs. Many cases, simple data models are enough to represent the information used by application. The quantity of information obtained in a structured format has grown considerably in the last. So here the two important factors are there is that one is it is schemaless. The performance of it is schemaless. Second is we can store any format of data. It is not going to have a constraint. We can store data in any formats you want. It can store data in the forms of structure, unstructured, and semi-structure of data. And the one more thing is that it has it's going to support a data intensive application. It's going to support the big data platform. So nowadays most of the companies like Facebook, Google, they are using what? They are using the NoSQL database. Okay, because it can handle the huge amount of data which is coming in different formats. It is schemaless. It is horizontally scalable. So you can add more number of nodes as per the data demands. Okay, so it has very good features. Even processing speed is good in case of the NoSQL. So most of the companies they use to follow NoSQL database. Now these are different types of NoSQL database. You can see here on this. I have different categories of NoSQL database. Document stores is one kind of categories. In document store means data will be stored in the forms of documents. Example is Apache, Jackrabbit, Apache, CouchDB, SimpleDB, TerraStore. This is example of document stores. Then we have graph. You can store the data in the forms of node, and you can have relationship between node also. The graphically you can store the data. The example is Allegro Graph, Neo4j, FlockDB, and Cerebrum. Then we have key value stores. We have to store data in the forms of key, right? In the forms of key, you can store data. Suppose we have the key value pairs would be given. Suppose the key is 1. Okay, name, suppose Saeed is a name, so it is going to call its value. Okay, so I'm going to store data in the forms of key value pairs, in the forms of key value. So this key value represent the data. Where is the key? Then you have the key value pair, right? So you have the so you should have the concept of key. Then going to see in the latest key value pairs. Okay, so here suppose, right, so you are going to have, so we are going to represent the values what in the forms of key and what in the forms of the values. So we are going to see each and every one how we are going to represent that one in the forms of key and value pairs. So this is macro classification data is further into key value store, and this key value caches in RAM hierarchical key value stores, consistency key value stores, and order key value stores. So it means that this the values can be stored in the forms of key will be there, and also we have the values. Okay, so we have the key value pairs will be there. Suppose if I'm going to write the key or value, right, so we're going to write in the forms of two important pairs you're going to use. One is going to use call as key, and second is going to call as what, use the values. So in that way, we're going to concern here. So suppose if I'm going to write some things like that, word and one, then cat, right? So here what is value I'm given is, I'm giving a value is given is 1, and what is key I given is the cat. So it means that we can able to access the data in the forms of key value pairs that we'll discuss in the next section in details. Then multi-value database is available. This is also kind of NoSQL database, like we have OpenQM, Rocket E2, Open Insight. Then we have object database like Object Stores, JD, GeoDB. Then we have Tableau stores. We have Google Big Tables, Hadoop, HBase, and Hypertable. So these are in the forms of Tableau stores. Then we have tuple stores like Apache Rivers. So these are called as different types of stores we have. These are different types of NoSQL database we are having. So nowadays the companies are using these are different types of NoSQL database they are using in their organizations, because it's going to support big data. It's allow you to store any kind of data. It can be structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data. So nowadays the companies are getting the ample amount of data from different sources. Evident they are getting the different data from the various sources, and that must be stored and that must be processed. Now here this is a prominent implementations that support data intensive applications. That's one: Amazon Dynamo, Google Big Tables, Apache Cassandra, Hadoop. These are all NoSQL database, and most of the companies are using Cassandra is somewhat famous NoSQL database. They're using HBase database, and most of data intensive applications uses Amazon Dynamo. They use Google Big Tables, they use Apache Cassandra, they use Hadoop HBase. So these are the famous NoSQL database which can be used by different organizations. Okay, if you see the Google, they use Big Tables. If you see the Amazon, they use Dynamo. This use the Apache, they use Cassandra. If you use this Hadoop, they use the kind of called HBase NoSQL databases. Now coming to the next, you are going to see about the programming platform, because relational models proven unsuccessful for big data. So definitely what you conclude that relational database is not at all feasible for big data, because relational database is not capable to store unstructured data. It is not capable to store semi-structured data. So definitely you can conclude that relational database is not at all feasible to store the big data. So to store big data, we are moving for NoSQL databases. Now distributed workflows have often been used to analyze and process large amount of data. So why using big data? To process a large amount of data and to analyze the large amount of data. So if you want to analyze a large amount of information, you have to use what? You have to use the big data. You have to use the large data sets. So by using through large data sets, you can analyze the data, and you can get more information from the large data sets. This approach includes a plethora of frameworks for workflow management system. So now here, because of to achieve these objectives, right, to how to store and how to process a huge amount of data, this we are going to have what kind of platform? We are going to have a programming platform for data intensive computing, which provide high level abstractions which focus on the processing of data and move into the runtime system, the management of transfer, thus making the data always available where needed. It means these programming platforms are going to highly used to process the huge amount of data where data are located. So what we are doing here in programming platform is that we are going to move the code where data is located. If data is located in one machine, then you are writing the logic, and then you are taking this logic and running this logic on this particular machine, and you are going to get the results. It means that we are going to employ the phenomena of software mobility here. We are moving this application code and running where data is located, and that through that you are going to obtain the results for the analysis. So by using big data analytics, or by using big data, we can able to perform a different services. We can able to store that huge amount of data as you want. We can process them, we can perform data analytics, we can get proper insight from the data, and based on this insight, we can take decision for the business planning. We can have a business strategy for our companies. So because of these important features, nowadays big data has been grown rapidly everywhere. Every organization are using different type of technology to process the big data, and they are getting a huge amount of information from the given data sets. Now we are going to see one more important things that is called as an ANECA. So what is ANECA and how this ANECA is going to be work, that you're going to discuss in a details. I hope you know about the cloud computing services, right? The cloud computing services will provide three important services going to provide. One is called as SaaS services. Okay. Second is going to call as PaaS services. Second is going to call as IaaS services. Okay. The software services, yes, this indicates software services. This indicate platform as a services. This indicate infrastructure as services. It means the cloud computings are able to provide these three important services. Okay. Now the SaaS as services means a complete implementation of the softwares. Okay, that vendors are going to provide you the complete software for the end users. You have nothing to worry about that. All the resources that concern cloud computing service providers are going to provide you. That is going to call as what software services. Then you have platform as services. In this, what will happen is that some of the services will be provided by the cloud computing service providers. Okay, you have an application and data, and some of the resources you want to access from the cloud computing service providers. So you just pay the amount and you get such kind of platform from the cloud computing services. Next we have what we have infrastructure services. Here also it is just like PaaS, but it's going to provide you some of the important infrastructure which you require to develop in any applications. So this ANECA is basically used for the what, for the implementation of PaaS services. So if you want to have a proper implementation of PaaS services, we are going to use, or you are going to use the ANECA framework. This ANECA framework is nothing but it's just like a middleware, you can say, middleware which can support to have a proper implementations on the PaaS services. So if you want to have PaaS services, the ANECA will going to provide you resource provisioning services. It's going to facilitate you services what for the PaaS. So for the implementation of the PaaS, for the implementation of platform services, we are going to use a framework, or you're going to use a tool which is called as what, which is going to call as what, the ANECA. So ANECA is product of what? Product of Manjaro Soft. ANECA is used for developing, deploying and managing cloud applications. So if you want to manage the cloud applications, right, through the PaaS, we have to use what? We have to use the ANECA services. ANECA can be integrated with existing cloud technology. Now in existing cloud technology, it is being integrated, or it is being integrated. ANECA includes an extensive set of API assisted programming models like MapReduce. So it has a good API, application programming interface. It has MapReduce also be it is integrated with the ANECA. So ANECA will also have the provide services like MapReduce services, where you can process the huge amount of data. This API support different types of cloud models, like, so you can use ANECA in three different cloud services, or you can use ANECA in private cloud, you can use in public cloud, you can use the hybrid cloud. So it support all three important of cloud services. It can support private cloud, public cloud and the hybrid clouds. ANECA is software platform for developing cloud computing applications. So if you want to develop the cloud computing applications, what you can use the ANECA as a tool. So ANECA is a tool what it's used for development of cloud computing applications here. Now ANECA cloud applications are executors. ANECA is pure PaaS solution for cloud computing. So this is very important things which I want to tell you, that the ANECA is what? Pure PaaS solution for cloud computing. So it is used for the implementation of PaaS models. So if you want to have a implementation for the PaaS models, you have to use what? We have to use for the ANECA PaaS solution for the cloud computing. ANECA is cloud middleware product. It is what product? It is also called as the cloud middleware product. So through this ANECA, we can able to grab a proper services of PaaS. The Eneka is a middleware through which we can able to deploy an applications. Okay, Eneka will also provide what some kind of integrated API features like MapReduce. So we'll discuss MapReduce in features, how Eneka will provide you MapReduce services in the different slides.